All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So the Detroit Lions are making some moves. They're making some trades. They're making some signings, and free agency technically has yet to even begin. We're less than 2 months away from the NFL draft. I'm seeing way too much skepticism out there in the NFL world about the couple of moves the Detroit Lions have made today. They traded for cornerback Carlton Davis. They also signed Marcus Davenport. Both of these two moves, it's so reminiscent of last season, in my opinion, this time last season. It's just so on the money with Brad Holmes' philosophy. These are guys, like we'll start with Carlton Davis. So the Detroit Lions received cornerback Carlton Davis, a 2024 sixth-round pick and a 2025 sixth-round pick, and they gave up a 2024 third-round pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you didn't know, the Detroit Lions had two third-round picks due to the TJ Hawkinson trade from a ways ago. Wow, that feels like ages at this point. And I really like this move, and I'm just seeing way too much hate. I'm seeing way too much skepticism on Twitter or talk shows or whatever. I really like this move. Carlton Davis in man coverage is an absolute beast. We'll talk about this. We'll also talk about Marcus Davenport in tonight's video. But before we do, I just want to say, one thing that the Detroit Lions, I feel like, desperately needed last year, Super Bowl aspirations aside, is depth. And specifically on the defensive side of things, and when we're looking at cornerbacks, it's just like the wide receiver position. You can never have too much depth. But Carlton Davis is a starter, and so we're going to be talking about that obviously in tonight's video. But before we do, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Lions fans, if you try and get this video to 500 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. When I saw this trade, I was fired up. I had to go home right away because I just thought it was awesome, man. Carlton Davis, I live here right now in Southwest Florida, watch a ton of Buccaneers games, and Carlton Davis, if he can just stay healthy, is an absolute animal. And I know he statistically, PFF graded him with career lows in multiple categories, yada, yada, yada. I don't really give a rat's ass. Carlton Davis in man coverage is a beast. And one thing we do know about the Detroit Lions, specifically their secondary, is they need more help, whether it's starters, whether it's bench depth, rotational players, you name it. The Detroit Lions secondary at the cornerback position just needs more. Cam Sutton, in my opinion, last season had a very good year, specifically in man coverage, but they just need more depth, right? That's what the main focus, the main emphasis on free agency and draft in the offseason in general with Detroit is the secondary. They also need an edge rusher. We've got some offensive line talk. We'll talk about all that, but Carlton Davis per PFF in man coverage last year, 60% completion percentage allowed, no touchdowns allowed in man coverage, a 75.1 passer rating when targeted, and a PFF grade of 68.8. I think he's very underrated. And like I said, it reminds me so much of the Cam Sutton acquisition last offseason. He's exactly what you want on outside cornerback. He's a man-to-man corner. He's good in press. He's not crazy aggressive. And he's a former Super Bowl champion. And he's entering the last year of his contract. People are getting so fed up with money. And I always think that's so foolish to do in any sport, in any offseason, with any acquisition. In my opinion, this is still a low-risk, high-reward type of move, because if Carlton Davis even gives you 13 games this season and plays in the playoffs like he did this past year, it's well worth it. I don't think they're going to be talking about extensions or anything like that. He is due $14.5 million, and I get it. That's a lot of money. But at the same time, man, they need cornerback help. And I have high aspirations in the offseason. I was talking about L'Jarius Sneed a couple times on my Lions videos. But at the end of the day, man, I don't think that was a bad trade in the slightest. Now, maybe if Detroit didn't have an extra third-round pick, maybe. But like I said, man, this is a Super Bowl champion, and when he's healthy and out there on the field, he's making an impact. This past season, he only played 12 games, but he had 9 pass deflections. He had 2 total interceptions. He had 52 tackles. He's just a good move for the Detroit Lions secondary that ranked 23rd in opponents pass or points per game, sorry, and they ranked third to dead last in total passing yards. Like Cam Sutton and the secondary, as far as safeties are concerned, a lot of hype, a lot of praise with specifically Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. But I don't know why this is a bad move. I don't know why people are complaining about this move because, in my opinion, it's very high upside. And I don't even really think it's that risky. Now, the other move that the Detroit Lions made today to this point, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, is they signed Marcus Davenport, a defensive end from the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings this past season. He was a former first-round pick. He's been devastated by injuries. Now, they agreed to terms at 1 year, $10.5 million, but that's at its max. That's with incentives, right? It's a $6.5 million base contract. And this move actually kind of reminds me of Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley was picked up by Detroit this time last season on a 1-year deal. And he did decent until his unfortunate, a torn ACL very early on in the season. And when I don't think Detroit is like free agency technically begins in 2 days, folks. Like they're going to continue to make moves. They're going to continue to bolster their roster. They can free up some money if they really desperately want to. But like, once again, money is not a concern to me. And $6.5 million base contract is not the end of the world. When we look at Marcus Davenport's career, it's been very underwhelming. But this is kind of just Brad Holmes's MO. Once again, former first-round draft pick. He's been hampered by injuries his entire NFL career. 2 years ago with the New Orleans Saints, he did play 15 games, but he only started 9 of them. This past year with Minnesota, started 3 games, only played 4. He had 2 total sacks. He had 7 total tackles, 4 quarterback hits. If Marcus Davenport can play an entire season, he's going to be just fine. And I also want to iterate, whether they run it back next season with James Houston and Marcus Davenport, being included there, maybe a draft pick, maybe another veteran free agent acquisition to pair up with Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil on the inside. It just, like I said, man, this just reminds me of last season. If Marcus Davenport is healthy, this is a double-digit sack potential player. We go back to his 2021 season where he only played 11 games. He had 9 total sacks. He had 16 total quarterback hits. It's just a big what if. He's pretty versatile also on the defensive line, but it just reminds me of last season where Detroit made a couple of moves where you're just kind of, specifically in the draft, first round pick with Jahmyr Gibbs after signing David Montgomery a couple of months prior, and you pick up Emmanuel Mosley. Like, these are moves where if they hit, it's really going to hit. And if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. But at the end of the day, the Detroit Lions defense needs more depth. They need more talent all around the board. And I just like the 2 moves that they've made thus far today. So let me know what you guys are thinking. As always, hit that like button, hit that sub button, and we'll catch you next time.